Do you struggle with setting goals for using memory techniques? If so, chances are that you can eliminate all of that struggle and start putting the pedal to the metal, get traction that lasts, and move meaningful towards improvement that lasts. And the best part, using your Mind Palace network can help. And all without practicing with annoying shopping lists and random words that no one cares about. Let's dive in and focus on memorizing information that matters. Hello there, Magnetic Memorizers. This is Anthony Metivier from magneticmemorymethod.com, where I help mature learners of every age take mental adventures using memory techniques by setting goals they can actually accomplish. That's just one of the ways our community helps you make learning easy, effective, elegant, and fun. So hit that subscribe button now, enable notifications with the bell icon, and that way you won't miss a thing, especially our live streams where you can hang out, ask questions, and meet the valuable members of the Magnetic Memory Method community. Now, this is video 4 in our Mind Palace Memory Training Secrets playlist. So, if you haven't seen the first 3 parts, the link for the playlist is in the description below. Now then, let's talk about goals, and more importantly, meaningful goals. One of the problems with a lot of memory training books is that they give you small memory tasks or goals to complete. For example, they'll get you to memorize a shopping list or random words. Let me be frank with you. This kind of goal makes 0 sense, even if people can argue with me until they're blue in the face that some people need simpler steps. Shopping lists? Simple? No, that's Mickey Mousing it. And frankly, if you can't remember what you like to eat, write it down. There's no shame in not using memory techniques for certain things. Goals that are meaningful in memory are goals that improve your life. And that means we can compromise with the Magnetic Memory Method no shopping lists policy. Because if you're memorizing that list in a foreign language and learning new words, why then that totally makes sense. But if it's just in your own language, seriously people, couldn't you find something a little bit more meaningful? Now, why does my dogmatic tone matter here? Well, please understand this. Your brain needs dopamine. It needs myelin. It needs the opioid receptors, all happy and receptive. If you memorize ubiquitous information that not only you're going to rapidly forget, but shouldn't have forgotten in the first place, like your diet, you're going to get humdrum dopamine spikes. Wow, I memorized carrots and tomatoes. Okay, maybe you get a bit of novelty out of that. Maybe there's a bit of norepinephrine generated from that novelty, but compare it to the feeling when you can say, oh my goodness, I just memorized 10 words of a foreign language. Whoa. Now, 10 words in a foreign language that you can actually use. That's what I call a goal. And it's pretty easy too. You just have to aspire to it. Recently I heard from Marcia, who just from one of my trainings memorized 52 words overnight in Irish. She's an older individual and had some doubts. Why don't we just have a look at what she wrote in her own words? Hi Anthony, I just wanted to send a note of thanks for your teaching about improving memory. I live near Seattle, Washington, and I've been studying Irish for over 5 years, despite the fact that the Irish-speaking community in the Pacific Northwest is tiny. Immersion? Forget about it, as my New York friends would say. I'd finally reached a point earlier this year at an intermediate level where I was convinced that it was impossible for me to memorize anything beyond what I'd already learned, chalking it up to my age, 64, and my lack of immersion. I'd hit the proverbial brick wall. No amount of staring at words on a page helped me to keep the words in my mind. But Anthony, there were 2 things you said in one of your recent emails about memory that really hit home for me. First, when learning new words, if you only learn the syllable that takes the emphasis, the brain will fill in the rest of the word. Second, the brain thinks in pictures, not words on a page. To use another New York expression, holy cannoli. When I learned these 2 things, I decided to give the Memory Palace technique another try, and voila, my memory kicked into gear. For example, the word realtà, which means star, I imagined that I walked out to the backyard of a house at midnight and saw a railroad track bathed in beautiful starlight. All I have to do now to recall the Irish word for star is to think of this image. Just thinking of a railroad track bathed in starlight causes my brain to expand rail to realtà. I started using the technique 2 nights ago on only 10 words just before bedtime and plan to test myself in the morning. Well, I woke up expecting to struggle and fail to remember the words as usual, but amazingly I looked at my list of English words and not only did I not fail, I knew immediately what the Irish translations were. I was stunned. I hadn't had a memory success like this in months, if not longer. Now, just 2 days later, I'm up to 52 new words and I'm not stopping. I understand now what you said about the memory having unlimited storage. With the Memory Palace technique, it doesn't matter whether you use it to learn 1 word or 1,000. As long as each word is associated with its own image, the technique has unlimited potential. I know that I can finally make progress again with my Irish. Thank you so much. And that's from Marcia Brannigan Aguero in Bellevue, Washington. There's a lot I love about this story, and we can create a lesson about setting and completing goals from it. For one thing, 52 is the number of cards in a deck of cards. It's also the number of weeks in a year. So imagine if you set a goal to memorize 52 words in a language you want to learn. That would be meaningful, and whether you do it in just a few days or in smaller steps, as small as 1 word a week for a year, it's going to create phenomenal amounts of positive brain chemistry every time you accomplish part of your goal. Of course, it's not just about goals alone. After all, you have to ask yourself, why do some people struggle with simple accomplishments like this, even though they have a meaningful goal? Well, I don't want to generalize, but often it's because they don't really want the outcome they say they want. Maybe as students, they're getting a degree and going to medical school to please their parents. And let's face it, all the memory techniques under the sun, they may still work, but they're probably not going to create the dopamine spikes useful in habit formation and using memory techniques for life because there's no truth in the goal. The information just isn't that meaningful to students in this situation. They might as well be memorizing shopping lists. So, if you're struggling with setting goals and you're setting them out of social obligation, family obligation, and so forth, that in itself can be a barrier despite your best intentions, not the memory techniques. Keep that in mind. And then, make a meaningful goal with information that will create this dopamine spike of meaning so that you're encouraged to go onward with the techniques, and then you can transfer it over to the medical terminology if you're going to medical school to please other people, as that case may be. One of the things you're going to love when you do find that dedication and that devotion, here's all you need to do. Create a vision statement. And for help with that, I still have a live stream replay available for everything involved in this simple skill. 2. Next, make sure you have the Memory Palace network needed to complete the learning project you come up with from your vision statement. If it's learning a language, make sure that it's in your vision statement. 3. Create a daily learning and memory training schedule. 4. Show up. Seriously, nothing happens if you don't. Showing up is itself a practice, and if you slip up, you just need to practice getting back on the horse. How? By practicing getting back on the horse. When you have that vision statement in place, it's easy to remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing and know that it's based on the truth of what you want, not some social obligation or family pressure. 5. Organize the information. Have it ready to memorize. There is wisdom on how to do this in the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass, and it winds up looking something like this, which Timo Han reproduced completely, as you can see in this image. He found that this organizational memory technique also helped him in business when working with his clients. So it's worth learning because it's actually useful for more than just memory. And if you're in business, your clients will love how much you remember about them, their desires, and everything related to how you work together. 6. Set a timer. Then just sit down and memorize, making sure that you're using the tools of the Magnetic Memory Method. If it's foreign language vocabulary or you're doing some work with numbers, terminology, names, it doesn't matter. Set a timer, sit down, and then go deep with the information that is bound to improve your life. And I do mean go deep. What does deep mean? It means D, define your outcome. E, establish how you're going to do it in your Memory Palace network. E, exercise with the information that improves your life. And then P, practice the practice of doing this. Easy, right? You bet it is. And this simple process will create wonderful chemical baths in your brain that makes everything easier. Now, let's talk briefly in greater detail about using timers. If you think you can focus on a task for 10 minutes, set your timer for 8 minutes. This is a tip I heard from Tim Ferriss, and I put this into practice with my own meditation at first, and then I added it to my memorization efforts. And it helps to vary the amounts of information over time. To do this, get some dice. Set your timer, sit with your information, and roll the dice. If you roll a 7, then just memorize 7 pieces of information. If you roll a 2, memorize just 2 pieces of information, and then take a break. Come back if you want to memorize more, but let this randomness create novelty for you in your daily practice. It's very powerful. I've been teaching this approach for years, and the people who put it into practice say they love it. It helps them crave the practice and the technique because it gives this little bit of surprise element and chance and randomness within structure. It also varies the challenge so that sometimes it's a bit too easy and other times a bit too hard. That's important for never getting too used to a strict routine that leads you to boredom. One of the problems that we have is we get bored with structure, even though we need structure in order to get anywhere with our memory training goals. And so, rotate the amount of content that you memorize for relief, and then add another die to put some positive stress into the game, and later release by memorizing less. This will help fuel your motivation in practical terms, and so I hope you'll set some goals and then give this timer technique with dice a try. If you're still stuck at the Memory Palace development stage, I've got a free program that will help you create dozens of them correctly so they serve you for life. Just head over to magneticmarymethod.com/YT and join thousands of people who've created thousands of memory palaces simply by completing this free course and using it to help you frame your mind palaces as efficiently as possible so that they are truly effective. Make a goal around learning this technique. It lets you romp through your own life so it's always meaningful, and then you apply it to memorizing information that improves your life. That makes it so much more memorable, and since we truly are the quality of what we can remember, focus on memorizing quality things. This ends our playlist on some of the most impactful Mind Palace training secrets. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to pick up any videos in it that you may have missed. Hit that thumbs up, get subscribed if you aren't already, and thanks, as always, for the view. Special thanks to those who've been supporting the channel for a long time, and until we have a chance to speak again, keep yourself magnetic.